maybe not the happiest subject, but a very, very, very important subject. Complaining. Currently, I'm reading, or actually listening and reading at the same time, the book again, A Millionaire's Mind, from T. Harv Eker. And one of the first things he mentions in his book, one of the first principles of a millionaire mind, is about complaining, and actually the lack of complaining. Because we, as human beings, we love to complain. And we have many reasons to complain. First, complaining gives us attention. The one who's listening to us gives us attention, so it's listening. And the reason why, he mentions in his book, the reason why people are listening to you, someone complaining, to other people complaining, is because they cannot wait for their turn to start and do the same. So I've read this book already a few years ago now. I want to learn more, so I re-listen, and of course I pick different things compared to the first time. But I remember I was listening to this, and I find it so interesting because, at that time I would pick up my kids from school every day because they were a few years younger, and there is some parents or grandparents or whoever is picking up the kids. I of course I'm often see the same parent or grandparent because I'm always there at the same days, not all 5 days, but so you basically see the same people. And at a certain point, I was always waiting under a tree, and I left that spot because problems people had, the sickness, the death in the family, the troubles at work, that was a subject. So I left. I cannot do nothing with this information. They're not my friends. I cannot help them, and I don't even want to help them. And so I left that spot. But guess what? My new spot, there were complainers as well. But after reading this book for the first time, I discovered something, and I actually practiced. What I did was, if I would actually go pick one of the complainers, and it was a grandparent, and I was trying to change the subject, into something positive. It doesn't matter if it's the sun or the holidays coming up or whatever it is, or some happy news. My goal for fun was to change the subject of the complaints happening in this person's life. And by trying to do that with someone else, it also helped me stopping myself from complaining. I am the type of person who looks on the bright side of life, small, big, but I can also complain. Especially where I unconsciously believe that there is no influence and things are just the way they are. So I am a victim with that mentality, with that mindset. But this practicing while waiting for my kids to come from school helped me a lot to change my way of being a victim, or saying goodbye being a victim. So not complain anymore, because when you complain about something, guess what? You will be getting even more from what you're complaining about already. So now let's move to one of the a recent conversation I had with someone. She works in a very complex environment, and the team is horrible. The troubles are huge. The things she's responsible for is very big. Her team is now, I would say, a nightmare, and that's her subject. That's what she talks about all the time, about other people, about situations, about people she reports to. And when I ask her, when I ask her, so what is your question? I don't get an answer. And I remember last time I asked 4 times, what is your question? And then after the 4th time, she answered a question. And, this is something I've done this. I've done this in the past. I've even done this. My last job, I worked at that company, I believe, for like 3 years. And then I moved to being self-employed. I complained a lot. I realize now how much I complained. It changed at a certain point, but looking back, there was a lot more leadership I could take and didn't do. I didn't take. And yes, maybe I'm a bit hard on myself, judging myself like this, but hey, what I know now about myself is I can honestly say that I was still a complainer when I left that last company. And you know what complaining does? It makes you walk on a roundabout, constantly doing circles. You might have maybe even 6 or 7 exits, but you don't take any of them. You walk. Your feet hurt like hell. People aren't walking with you. And so you're just there by yourself, walking, complaining. Another blister, walking, complaining. A second one, walking, complaining. Third one, walking, complaining. That's what you do. And it hurts like hell, and it doesn't get any better. It does not get any better. And the reason why, in this example, but with anybody stuck in the same complaining stories, is that it's easier. It's easier just to walk, even though it hurt your feet, even though it cost a lot of energy, even though you say you don't like the situation. But the case is, you like the situation more compared to actually try and look for an exit. They are there, but if you don't look, you don't see them. So it's a lot easier to keep on complaining, and then people feel sorry for you, and then you have your attention again, and people will say, oh, and you work so hard, and you deserve so much more, and you keep on complaining. So what does it bring you? Nothing. Totally nothing. It's horrible. It's sad. And then at a certain point, your life is over, and what have you done? Complaining. It's truly sad. So I took this from T.R. Ecker as well, from the book. So a good challenge for yourself. If you want to, you can also if you recognize yourself, right? I don't know if you recognize yourself yet, but if you do recognize yourself, and I do believe we all, as human beings, we all complain. We all do. If you recognize yourself, try not to complain for a week. 7 days. 7 days. And if you notice yourself complaining, you stop. You just stop and focus on what you're actually doing, or the bright side, or whatever it is you were complaining about. If it's the weather, it's raining and you wanted to go out and you don't have a car for whatever reason, it's a reason to complain. It is. But hey, if you keep on complaining, you're stuck on the roundabout in the rain this time. So what else is there? What opportunities do you have? Maybe just don't go later, whatever, doesn't matter. But it's to point out that we complain about very simple things. We complain about things that we cannot change anyway. And we complain because it's the easiest way to do. You don't have to take action. You don't have to take responsibility. You don't have to show leadership. By just complaining, you explain why you are in this victim position. And I'm talking to you, but I could well talk to my previous self, and sometimes still, because every time I discover, when I sabotage myself, I have various ways of doing that. I realize, oh, gee, I was being a victim again. I was being a victim again. And I just let things happen. I thought I didn't have any control, but I do. I do. And every time I figure another one out, I can take more leadership on the things I want or the things I find important. So I hope this episode was valuable for you, and I hope it is as valuable for you as it was once for me, and it still is for me. And whatever you're going to try, 7 days without complaining, or try to change the conversation when you face a complainer, enjoy, because it will make your life so much easier, nicer, more joyful, and more successful, because you attract what you send out in words, in feeling. And if you send out what you actually want and how you're going to get there and how it makes you already feel this excitement, guess what? It's going to come to you a lot sooner compared to complaining. Bye. Thanks for listening.